Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing really well. So I want to come and speak about mediumship channeling, which I don't know if I've really done a lot of before on my channel. And mediumship channeling, in my own definition or experience, is when you are in communication with souls that have basically passed to the other side. So for example, if, okay, so it gets a little bit complicated in terms of reincarnation. So if you're in contact with a soul, it doesn't mean that their actual soul hasn't gone into a new body, but it does mean that there's like always an energetic sort of signature from their lifetime that you can sort of like be in communication with. And it's just like when we have lived in many different lives across many different places of existence, there's sort of this access point that we have to like a greater wisdom as a soul. So it does get a little bit complicated if you try to look at it through the lens of like linear time on Earth, because it's not going to be linear and it's far more expanded than that. So I think that a lot of my understanding has come from my own experience, so it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same as other people's, which is okay. But I still think there's a worthwhile, it's worthwhile to share, because I know a lot of people are channels, and yeah, this is one that took me a little while to like perfect how to channel the energy of a deceased soul. So basically, I just want to get into it, and Spirit, please help me to articulate this. So when you're in touch with a deceased soul, like the energy that you're tuning in with is still very like earthbound, meaning that it's still more of a dimensional match to like where we're existing in right now. Obviously they aren't physically incarnate, but when I see them, oftentimes they are like holographically here, like it's like a very light-based image of them. And also sometimes there'll be a lot more colors or lights with them, or certain things that they might have with them that to me represent like them passing over to the other realms. So they might come and they're like shining and they've got this huge halo of light, of golden light, or they're beaming, or they might look younger or older than they did when they died. And yeah, so it's quite an interesting experience, because you can have, for example, someone who dies quite young, but when you are in touch with them across the veil, they might look a lot older. So it's quite an interesting thing, and it's very, very complex, and it all goes into what messages that they have. So yeah, so basically one of the main tips that I have about if you are a medium, and it's not really something that you choose, it's just something that you have, I believe. And I believe as well that all of us have the ability to channel, but it's not in our destiny, or other factors, like millions of different factors actually that could prevent you from it. But if you're a natural channel, that means that you will be able to channel in a mediumship way. Okay, but first of all, when you're in touch with deceased souls, you want to be very careful about your boundaries with them, okay? Because one thing I've found from deceased souls when they're contacting from the other side is that depending on their life experience and the nature of the death, sometimes they have a lot of emotional energy that can be very, very intense, okay? So it could be that they have someone they're trying to get in contact with. That's very, very common, is that they have someone very close to them who's still alive, and they really, really, really want to be able to get through to them. And as is the nature of where we're at right now on Earth, a lot of the time people aren't aware that their loved ones are contacting them, or that they're sending them messages, even if it's really overt sometimes. Like they'll like knock down a picture frame of themselves or something, and then it's like, oh, that's strange, I'll just put it back up. So it's sort of like there is this communication barrier for the majority of people that the deceased soul can find very, very painful, because they really want to get through and they really want to make that, like, bridge that gap. So keep in mind that if a deceased soul does come to you, they could have their own emotional like baggage that you don't want to take on. All right, you have to be very, very boundaried with the deceased soul, because they can push very hard, because they can be very excited that they have a connection to this side, right? They have finally, someone's heard their call, but at the same time, you need to know that you can hang up that phone at any time and they need to know that. And so that there's this like respect happening, as well as an understanding that just like you would be on the phone to someone for a certain amount of time, even if it's a long phone call, eventually you hang the phone up and therefore you close the channel. Okay, so this is really important, is that you want to make sure that you close the channel down again once one has been activated, because in a way it's like a portal to across the veil, which is always available to us. Like, we're always able to like reach across and like get information or connect in with spirit guides or high self or ancestors and these things. However, if you open like a gate there kind of thing, then you're kind of like open to other things coming in. Now, if you've got a really strong channel going and you're hooked into like one energy, that soul's energy, then that's okay, because there's a really clear like bond that's created at that's what you're pulling through. But if you're kind of like checking in with them, then go off and you know making tea and like, then no, okay, because that means that there's an open channel and you have kind of left it unattended to. Okay, so you need to make sure that if you open a channel that you close it, and you're very responsible about what you are opening. Okay, and this is especially true if you're not an experienced channel, because it might get a little bit wild essentially. So you just want to be really responsible essentially. And it's just like, if you're on the phone to someone, you know, you're not gonna like not hang up and then, you know, take your phone in with you when you go to the toilet or something. Like, there's just boundary levels that is just appropriate. So boundaries are really important. And as well, keep in mind what you might be getting into when you are in touch with a deceased soul. So obviously if they're a family member, an ancestor or something, then you're gonna have a lot of like heart energy, and regardless, because a deceased soul is so connected to emotion. And this is what is really fascinating to me about mediumship channeling, is that to me it is the most emotional form of channel. Okay, because when you're connecting in with like cosmic beings, archangels, you know, interdimensional beings such as like elves or mermaids or other kinds of things, they exist at a certain dimensional frequency, right? So that when you're in contact with them, it will always sort of raise your frequency, because you're in contact with something that is existing at a very high frequency rate. So you obviously have to be at a high frequency to connect in, and then effortlessly it will continue to raise, and it will be a very uplifting and buoyant experience that you'll carry with you for the rest of the day. Okay, so with mediumship channeling, however, it's something that is very moving at an emotional, heart-centered level, okay? So it sort of gets you more in those lower chakras in a way. Well, it gets you more in the heart, where you feel a lot of empathy. You feel like, for example, if a deceased soul has someone they really want to get in contact with, who's still living, and you'll hear what they have to say or their story or like what it is that they want to say to that person, and it will touch you as if you are feeling it. Like, so it's a really emotional, and this is of course why it can be something that you want to have very clear boundaries with and know very, very clearly about, you know, if you are wanting to open that connection or not, and for what reason you're doing that as well. You know, keep in mind, like, this isn't something to just treat lightly. It's something that's a very beautiful experience though, and this is like, I think I would like shy away from it a bit too much in my early years of channeling, because I didn't know about the emotional side of it, and I kind of felt like, oh, this is really different experience, and it's so emotional, and it's so like, you know, you feel like you're connecting with a real human, and you have all this real human emotion that's very, very heightened and such. So I think that I probably shied away from it a bit much though, and I would say it's like quite a beautiful resource isn't the right word, but it's like a beautiful experience, because a deceased soul has their wisdom and understanding from being in the human experience, as well as their wisdom and understanding from their current non-physical perspective of being now non-physical. Of course, like I said though, there are various different emotions that come with that for that soul. Like some souls have regrets about their life, or they have some rude awakenings, like essentially from when they are now seeing from the truth, like they see from truth now. So for example, if there's any kind of illusions that they were participating in leading up to their passing, and then they now have to sort of see that for what it is, and maybe see that it's still going on and stuff like that, that can bring a lot of distress in a way to a soul, even though they also have that higher understanding. So really, it's not like there's always going to be an elevated spiritual like perspective that soul is able to be in touch with, but they also have, and it's very unique because they also have this real like human emotional side like we do, like, you know, our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses, our, you know, our self-criticism, or our sense of, you know, why did I do that kind of thing. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. What else will I say about it? Most of the time a soul like has something to share, like they'll have a wisdom or something, a continuation of something to share, like soul wisdom. And for some reason I keep seeing Princess Diana right now. And I feel like it's like, and I know that it's different. It's like public figures often were like, this is what I'm getting. So it's like public figures often were public, and that's part of their purpose for their lifetime. But it's almost like when they cross over, they're still so connected to that purpose of like helping so many people, that I think that's why a lot of them want to still come through. Like there's just this desire to be of assistance, basically, is what I get from the other side. Like they just want to help, and they want to guide, and they want to help. Okay, now there are certain deceased souls who are far more problematic, and these are the ones that you have absolutely nothing to do with, and you close that door immediately as soon as they come up. And these are the ones you'll know because they will try to get you into low vibrational emotions. Okay, and if anything like that happens, no matter what, if it's a family member, I've definitely had a deceased family member who I've had to have very strong boundaries with, because they were crossing some boundaries. I'm not going to go into it, but basically you need to basically, you'll know, but just like if there's any kind of low vibe stuff that they're trying to bring through the channel, then like, as in, if they're discernment, guys, you have to have discernment, because it's kind of a bit of a paradox sometimes. But just know that if there is any kind of provocation, okay, that's a big one. If they're trying to provoke you, or they're trying to just like do things a bit strange, then it could also be a sign that the channel is compromised, okay, by some other lower entity or something, or that that soul is not, you know, they're not ready for what you would be able to offer and facilitate through a connection. Yeah, so there's also other things that can happen, which is a lot more rare, actually. What I found, it's a lot more rare, that a soul might have trouble crossing over. Okay, so that's again rare, but it can happen if, usually there's often like a trauma around that death, or the person wasn't in their right mind when they died. So some kind of like mental like psychosis or schizophrenia or some kind of distortion mentally, or some kind of drug use. Definitely, if there's a lot of heavy drug use or other energy attachments into that person's aura when they died, can just create a lot of confusion about the realms and the dimensions and such. And on very, very rare occasion, a soul like will not realize that they've died. But that's extremely rare, and I've never encountered that. But I've heard of it, and it does resonate. But I think that's more of a soul who's existed in very low vibrational frequencies while they're incarnate. Okay, and then it's sort of like this twilight zone. I'm not sure. Okay, so another thing, souls hang around. Yes, they do. And I see them all the time, and I usually have like very, very like boundaries. So one thing you might want to consider if you're a medium or you're not sure how to do boundaries and stuff with deceased souls is I would, this is something I did really early on into my channeling, is I essentially did not let them into my house. So you might see them as you're walking around the streets, except I found that spirits will walk on the perimeters of my house, so like right at the back gate, like the back fence, which is like quite far away, or like right at the front, in front of the house, or they'll like cross the street, across the road or something. And so yeah, they're hanging out, but if you want to have the boundary, which I 100% recommend, you don't want them hanging out, because they can be, like, it depends what vibration they're at. Like it's just like with humans, like unless you're 100% solid in your vibration, so wherever you go, you uplift friggin' everyone there. Sometimes we can get caught off guard, and like someone can have a low vibrational energy and it might impact us, right? So that's why you want to be very careful about who and why you're channeling, yeah? But also don't close your heart space to it, because I think in a way, like I said, like in a way, I think that I was too close to it, because I think I was learning, and I think it's like I did the right thing in terms of what I needed to do, but I also think don't shy away from it, because it can be a very beautiful heart connection, very beautiful, profound experience of sharing. It's like a way of sharing the human experience, as strange as that is, because they're not having that human experience anymore in that body, like in the body they were in. But at the same time, it's actually a very, very peaceful and beautiful perspective. And yeah, definitely one that makes you feel pretty, grateful for being alive and having this physical experience that we're having, which can be easy to get lost in, right? So yeah, just to recap from what I've said, have really strong boundaries if you're doing this kind of channel work. So if you're going to, speak to a spirit. Now one thing, there's so much to say, but one thing I'll say is that you can't really command like a spirit to talk to you or anything. That's very not right. But you can get signs and synchronicities that there's a certain spirit around you. And you can also, you can also kind of just intuitively sense if there's some reason that you should be in contact with them. Or of course, if it's an ancestor or a loved one, then they're going to be really strong in your aura. They're going to be really looking out for you and helping you, because they love you, okay? And even if it was a strange relationship on this side, like it depends, not 100% of the time, but some of the time, they will offer a really beautiful energy. Like I'm thinking of my great-grandmother and my grandmother. Like I didn't know them incarnate. Like I wasn't physically, never met them, but I feel their energy is very strong. And even though, I know that they weren't like perfect people, like none of us are, when they were alive, like their energy is very wise and humble and expanded, and it's very beautiful. So yeah, obviously, well, I also have another family member who I choose not to be in contact with because they were, it's complicated. But yeah, so oh yeah, so you can't like command to talk to a spirit, okay? I shouldn't even have to say this, but like, you can feel intuitively like there's a connection brewing and that there's something to be passed through, or you might have a connection already with them. There's certainly a lot of, organic ways that something can form, but it's like you can't summon a spirit or anything, like, because they in a way have free will if they want to talk to you or not. And I think that spirits choose the channel as well that they want to come through. Certainly if, like, I'm thinking about some people who channel on YouTube and stuff, like publicly, deceased spirits, deceased souls, and like those souls have chosen those channelers to come through. Like, that's how I see it, because they have a message, or they want to help, or they see that that person is enough of a vibrational match to what they have to say, so in a way it's like it's like both parties have to choose that they want to engage in this. So it's not like you just summon some spirit and they're like there to do your bidding. Like, they very much still have a strong presence, a strong personality. And so it's like, again, the boundaries thing. If you do initiate contact, then keep it like a phone call. And what do you do after you finish? You hang up the phone, you close the channel, and you move on. Okay, it's really important. And also keep in mind, if it's emotionally laden, like if there's a lot of emotions going on there, that you just want to be discerning about, again, like why you're doing this, because you don't want to like go out of your way to try to help souls if it's like taxing to you, or if it's draining to you in any way or anything like that. And certainly some souls don't understand boundaries, so if they don't, then that's their problem and bye-bye. Like it's like you have terms and conditions, and if someone doesn't follow those guidelines, well, then goodbye. But obviously most souls that you would want to get in contact with are very like elevated and wise souls who've lived really beautiful lives, so it's like a really beautiful experience. Okay. But yeah, there's always going to be emotions involved, so just a heads up, if you don't want to get emotional, then don't contact a deceased soul. Not 100% of the time, but like especially I've found, okay, so this is turning into an essay, but especially I've found, like, if you make contact with them for the first time, especially if you're the first person to have contacted with them, then there's going to be a lot of emotion, all right? And that's something that they're going to need to express. That's what I found. So certainly if a soul has been deceased for a longer period of time and other channels have gotten in contact with them, they're going to have a really different energy to pass through, and a lot of the time it's more polished and it's more like, yes, I know what my message is, rather than, oh my gosh, this person, I can't get through to them, please help me. That's more their energy when they first died. Okay, so are they always available? No, and this might be from their own choice. They don't want to be in contact. It might be from a block within you. Like, I've certainly known of certain mediums who found it hard to channel deceased people who were close to them, and I think that's just because it's so emotional, and I totally get it. And also because sometimes souls have business on the other side that we don't understand or that we can't necessarily know about, and it might make them unavailable for an extended period of time, and that could be to do with their processing of their life review, or just what they need to go through before their next incarnation, or just because they don't really want to talk, just like a human. Yeah. And then, so boundaries. Emotions, keep in mind it's going to be emotional, and really check in with why you're doing it. And you don't want to be exploited, and you don't want to exploit anyone else, so just keep that really clean and clear within yourself. But also it's a very beautiful, like, heart connection that can offer a lot. All right, so okay, I think that's all that I really had and that Spirit's wanting to pass through. It's an interesting topic. I personally haven't really seen anyone else talking about it, but I'm sure a lot of people are. I just haven't really seen it that much. Yeah. And it's also, I guess I will just add, it's something that I mainly do, unless a soul is really clear that they want to talk to the world about things, I don't usually make it public, I guess, when I'm in touch with them. I might in the future if I'm really called to, but it's not been, it just hasn't been like that for me yet. Oh, I have channeled some souls on my Patreon before, But yeah. So, there's so much I could say. Like certain souls tend to have connections with certain issues or topics that are still alive and well on Earth. They might have, it's like almost like they're like advocates or what's the word? Activists for certain causes, or it might be a continuation of their life's work they want to pass through. Like there's so much of a nuance in this topic. It's like such a broad topic, but yeah. Okay, so I'd be really curious to hear about what you guys have to say, what you guys have to share about this topic in the comments if you are a medium channel. Or actually, yes, I'll add one more thing. Fuck. If you or someone you know has ever gone to a medium to be in touch with a deceased loved one, oftentimes I've found that the deceased loved one will sort of guide you to that person or guide you to that connection so that there can be information or healing shared between. So yeah, just keep in mind that often it's all very much divinely guided. Okay, that's all for now, guys. Send you off so much love. Talk soon.